Welcome to Monday morning on BBC One at 6 o'clock from their bright, shiny news studio. It's breakfast.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Sally Nugent and John Kay.
Our headlines today. The murder of Stephen Lawrence. The BBC names a sixth suspect. An exclusive investigation identifies Matthew White publicly for the first time.
The wife and mother of two of the victims of last week's Titanic submersible disaster tells us about the moment she realised neither of them would survive.
I sent a message to my family on shore. I said, I'm preparing for the worst. That's when I lost hope.
Good morning. As rising interest rates take hold, nearly half of mortgage payers say they are already struggling with debt. We'll go behind the scenes at a charity to hear about the help that's on offer.
In sport this morning, Australia have the edge in the women's Ashes. England need 152 runs to win with just 5 wickets remaining as the one-off test edges towards a dramatic finish.
Elton John brings Glastonbury to a close with a bang in his final UK show.
Good morning. Yesterday, Coningsby in Lincolnshire reached 32.2 Celsius. This week, it's going to be much fresher, more changeable. There'll be rain and sunshine at times. But I'll have all the details throughout this morning's programme.
Good morning, everybody. Monday, the 26th of June. Well, you can watch Daniel's full report on BBC One at 8:30 tonight, or it's on the BBC iPlayer now as well. And you can read his full investigation online. That's at bbc.co.uk/news. Right, the time is 6:05. What else do we need to know this morning? Sally has more of today's news.
Now, the wife and mother of Shahzada and Suleiman Dawood, who died on the submersible, which Christine Dawood there. Now, the head of a mercenary army which rebelled against President Putin over the weekend has still not been seen in public, more than a day after he struck a late-night deal to halt the insurrection. Yevgeny Prigozhin has last seen leaving Rostov-on-Don, the Russian city he had briefly occupied. Our Europe correspondent Sarah Rainford is in Warsaw for us this morning. So, Sarah, no public appearance from any of the main characters. What can you tell us about what's actually happening now?
Well, I can tell you that there have just been pictures published by Russian state media that show the defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, supposedly visiting forward positions, a command post of the Russian military, head of the military, Sergei Shoigu. This man, he was calling for him to be removed. He was challenging Vladimir Putin's authority to basically calling on him to remove the defense minister. Now, a day and a half, 2 days later, the defence minister is still in place. That was one of the signals we were looking for, and that's one of the answers we've got. But Mr. Prigozhin himself is still missing. The reports from the Kremlin over the weekend were that he was disappearing, going into exile in Belarus. That seemed extraordinary because this is the man that Vladimir Putin had accused of stabbing him in the back with this mutiny, and yet apparently he was allowed to walk free. We still haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. We don't know what he has to say about exactly what was going on all weekend and what this means for him now going forward.
Sarah, thanks very much indeed. Now, the Prince of Wales is launching a major new project today. He wants to end homelessness completely in 6 different places across the UK within the next 5 years. Prince William's charitable foundation is providing £3 million of start-up funding to help make homelessness rare, brief and unrepeated. 6 locations across the UK will be used to test ideas to cut homelessness. The Duchess of York is recuperating after an operation following a diagnosis for breast cancer. The 63-year-old underwent the procedure at a private clinic in London last week before returning home to Windsor, where she's recovering with family members. Her spokesman said the surgery went well and that doctors have said her prognosis is good. Members of the Scottish Parliament are asking businesses and community groups whether there should be a tourist tax raised by a surcharge on hotel rooms and breakfast bills to help raise money for councils. If approved, individual councils would decide whether or not to use the power. Now, a hosepipe ban comes into force for more than 2 million people across parts of Kent and Sussex today. It comes after the boss of South East Water said water shortages are caused in part by more people working from home. Well, Celestina Ololode is in East Sussex for us. So, Celestina, bad news for gardeners and people hoping to cool off in the heat at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning. You join me from Arlington Reservoir. This is a huge area, about the size of 121 football pitches. And
Celestina, thanks very much indeed. It certainly looks like a glorious day there. Now, did you see him? Sir Elton John has brought down the curtain on this year's Glastonbury Festival. He played all the hits for the crowd at Worthy Farm, watched by millions more on the television. It's the first time he's played Glastonbury, though you wouldn't know, would you? It's also very likely to be his last ever UK gig. He was incredible. He's still standing, I'm standing, so's Carol. Morning, Carol.
Good morning, Sal. Good morning to you too. And phew, what a scorcher it was yesterday. In fact, we had a temperature reaching 32.2 Celsius in Coningsby in Lincolnshire. Now this week, it is going to turn much fresher than it has been of late. And it's also going to be a bit more changeable in the sense that we will see some rain and we'll also have some sunshine at times as well. Eventually, we will see a return to this humidity overnight in the south, but for most, it is going to be fresh. So a lot of dry weather, a fair bit of sunshine to start the day. We've got showers across the north and the west, but for the southeast, mostly dry. There's a small chance we could see a shower here a bit later on in the day. Temperatures today lower than they were yesterday. So yesterday in Lincolnshire, as we've just seen, it was 32.2. Tomorrow, it's more likely to be 22. Today, we're looking at about 21. So quite a drop in temperatures compared to what we've been used to. Tonight, many of the showers will fade. There will be some clear skies around. The cloud will build in from the west through the night, and then we'll start to see this rain coming in across Northern Ireland, and eventually it will get in across Western Scotland as well. Temperatures overnight, looking at a range 9 to about 13 degrees. And as we start the day tomorrow, it's the east that will start off with some sunshine, but it will be fairly short-lived because as our weather front comes in bringing all this rain, the cloud is going to build ahead of it. And some of this rain will be heavy and also persistent. Temperature-wise, well, we're looking at very similar to today, a range roughly about 15 in the north to 22 in the south. So Sal and John, it's all changed this week. What we would expect is British weather.
Exactly, and it's nice of you to tie in the orange with the colours around you as well, Carol. That's very thoughtful of you.
I'd like to say, John, it's all my own work.
It's not. I like your new weather map. Very, very posh.
You know, I'm used to being in a broom cupboard to do the weather in the mornings, so it's so nice to actually be able to walk over and walk back. It's a whole new world for me.
It is. It's lovely to have you here, Carol. Thank you.
Get back in your cupboard. We'll be back in half an hour's time. It's 18 minutes past 6. Let's look at some of the Monday morning papers, shall we? And what a dramatic weekend it's been. UK must prepare for sudden collapse of Russia is the headline in the Times today. The paper referring to a warning from a senior government source here, it says, over the stability of President Putin's regime following that failed insurrection at the weekend.
The Duchess of York's breast cancer diagnosis is the lead story in the Mirror this morning. The paper says she has her family rallying around her.
Another royal story for you on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today. They're leading with the Prince of Wales, Prince William, saying he's committed to ending homelessness as he prepares to launch a major project which was 2 years in the making. The paper says it could define his legacy as Prince of Wales as he aims to follow in the footsteps of his late mother.
And let's have a look at a couple of the stories inside the newspapers this morning. There's one incredible story about a mother who has become a champion stone skimmer. You know, as in stone skimming?
144 feet, apparently, according to the Mail, but she can do it. It's absolutely amazing.
That picture.
I'm worried about the photographer, aren't you?
Wonder how many bounces that
just
gets.
Dodged it. Oh, there's a seagull above as well. That got away with it as well. Yes, apparently you have to look for a flat, round, evenly weighted stone with a corner wrapping around your index finger.
Right.
That's the cheek advice. And step 4 in the top 5 tips is check for swimmers and wildlife within the throwing zone.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm rubbish at skimming
important.
stones. But my very, very favourite story in the newspapers this morning is about, it's important, I think, we've got new breakfast mugs here.
Oh, yeah?
What's the best biscuit to dunk into your tea, which we talk about every now and again here on Breakfast, don't we?
But what's striking is when they did a survey on this about, 6 months ago,
yes,
divided the nation,
yes,
the most popular biscuit to dunk
wasn't a biscuit.
Was a Jaffa cake. Do you remember? And it all melted.
And now it's a ginger nut.
And the
Apparently
Jaffa
that's the
cake
best
has
one.
fallen out of the top 10 completely. So
ginger nut, and then I think a rich tea second.
What a fickle lot we are. It's 6:20.
Now, nearly half of mortgage payers are already struggling to keep up with their bills this year. That's according to some new research by a debt charity.
Ben has been looking at this for us this morning. Ben, interest rates going up again last week, and the situation for so many households seems to be getting tighter and tighter, doesn't it?
Yeah, we spoke about this a lot last week because of the interest rate decision by the Bank of England, and this gives us a glimpse into the actual real-world effect it's having on people. Let me explain the details of this. Rising housing costs are just the latest big squeeze on the cost of living, and it's a really worrying time, especially if you've already seen your repayments go up by hundreds of pounds a month. The debt charity Step Change has shared some exclusive data with us, and this is what it shows. More than a quarter of all new people coming to them say the rising cost of living is their source of debt. Now, that is compared to just 9% 18 months ago, back at the start of 2022. The big one at the moment, of course, is housing costs. And let me show you how things have changed in the last year. This graph illustrates it. Just under 2.5% was the average cost of a mortgage back in January 2022. Look how it's risen since then. By May this year, that had more than doubled as those repeated interest rate rises took hold. And then look what happens. It's become a lot higher since. It's spiked, with the average 2-year fixed deal now above 6%. Now, that will hit you in different ways depending on your individual circumstances. But let's say you have a mortgage of £150,000 being repaid over 25 years. That will now cost you almost £300 a month more than it did just 18 months ago. Nearly half of mortgage borrowers are already struggling to pay their bills, with many already relying on loans, credit cards and overdrafts to cover just the basic expenses. The worry, the expectation is that this figure will go higher and things will get much worse. The debt charity Step Change has given us special access to its call centre in Leeds, and my colleague Olivia Richwold went along to hear about the help they offer.
It's coming up to 6:30. You're watching Breakfast this Monday morning. Thank you for joining us. And still to come on today's programme, did you stay up? Wasn't
Yes.
it brilliant? What a weekend, eh?
Yeah, well, it's over for another year, but we will be looking back at the highlights of the last few days and hearing what some of those 200,000 music fans made of it.
Colin Patterson is going to be there live as they pack up their tents and head back to the car parks and the coach parks in the next hour or so, all from Glastonbury to come.
Before all that, it's time to get the news, the travel and the weather where you are this morning.
Thank you very much indeed. Morning everybody, just after 6:30. Breakfast this morning with Sally and John.
It is a busy time, isn't it? We've had Glastonbury. We're having a little chat about Glastonbury later in the programme. Lots of cricket happening. John's here to talk about the Women's Ashes.
Good morning. Yeah, this busy summer of sport rolls on, doesn't it? And yeah, interestingly at the moment, we've got Wimbledon, of course, next week, but we see the second Men's Ashes test start on Wednesday. But we're right in the middle of the first Women's Ashes test, which is a sort of standalone test at the moment. And in this multi-format series in which they play, more points are on offer for this first test. It's the only test they play. So you want to get off to the best start possible. But England are up against it after some some loss.
How many times in your career have you said that?
No, it's such a shame. It's such a shame. But Australia's such a good team. You know, the best team really in women's cricket. It was always going to be tough, but they've really gone toe-to-toe. And they will be disappointed with the sort of loss of those wickets yesterday, which has really put them up against it heading into this final day today. But hey, fingers crossed. Come on, where there's hope, there's always a way, isn't there? Yes, very good morning. England's hopes of victory in the one-off Ashes test are in the balance after the loss of 5 late wickets yesterday evening. This after Australia were bowled out for 257, and it means England need 152 runs to win on the final day today, as Ben Croucher reports. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. They're going for it, aren't they? Just a week to go, as I was saying, until the start of Wimbledon, and you wonder what challenge the men's world #1 Carlos Alcaraz will pose after he won his first grass court title at Queen's yesterday, beating Alex de Minaur in straight sets in the final. And that, you feel, will set him up for a serious tilt at the title at SW19 a week today, but not before he finds a home for that huge trophy, one of the biggest he'll be adding to his collection.
I started the tournament not really well, you know, as you said. I had to, you know, adapt my movement, you know, a little bit on grass to get experience. Yeah, but it's been an amazing week.
There was a title for Ruoning Yin, who won the Women's PGA Championship, the second major of the year. It's her first major secured with a one-shot victory. She enjoyed a bogey-free final round on what was a weather-delayed day in New Jersey. That birdie at the final hole, handing her the title, though. Overnight leader Leona Maguire from Ireland dropping to tied 11th. There was a touching tribute on what proved an emotional day for British cyclist Fred Wright. He won his first British national road race title. He'd never won a senior race until yesterday. But as a former teammate of Gino Mader, who died after a crash at the Tour de Suisse earlier this month, he tearfully pointed to the sky as he crossed the line in tribute. He said he was racing with his former teammate on his mind yesterday. Now, it may have taken him 5 seasons, but Britain's Jake Dixon has finally claimed a first ever win in Grand Prix motorcycling. Now, Dixon recovered from what was an early mistake to reclaim the lead on the penultimate lap of the Moto2 race in Assen and held on to claim an emotional win for himself. It moves him up to 3rd place in the championship ahead of his home race at Silverstone in August. They say never give up, and he certainly hasn't with the career he's had. What a win! And finally, have a look at these pictures. A scene reminiscent of Fenway Park, perhaps home of the Boston Red Sox, or maybe even Yankee Stadium. But no, this is the London Stadium in the Olympic Park in London. Mike was down there over the weekend, wasn't he? The St. Louis Cardinals beating the Chicago Cubs. So this series shared as American fever took hold in London. And amazing to think of all the sports that have been staged at that venue, of course. So much British success, wasn't there, at London 2012 at the Olympics. Baseball adding its name to that list.
Was he playing? I'm assuming that was him that we just saw sliding in at the end. I'd be very disappointed if it wasn't.
I wonder if they've changed the menu. Is it hot dogs and pretzels and popcorn as well? John, lovely stuff. Thank you.
Now, if you are walking around the house this morning humming Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, or maybe Candle in the Wind, or my favourite, Tiny Dancer, you're not alone.
Rocket Man. Oh, gosh, they're all round in my head this morning. Millions of us stayed up way too late watching Sir Elton John, bringing the Glastonbury Festival to a close after 3 astonishing days of music and dressing up, and thankfully, as Carol was just saying, a surprising lack of rain this year.
Yeah, our entertainment correspondent, I should say, Colin Patterson, was there from the very start. Oh, Colin, we talked to you right at the start, and you are also still standing. I'm very impressed.
I've made it. We have survived. Oh, my voice has gone all croaky there, though. But we've made it to the last morning of Glastonbury. This is where it all happened last night. The Pyramid Stage. An estimated crowd around 150,000 people crammed in to see Elton John. Many of them heading home at the moment. Morning, everyone. Morning. Yeah. Not much response quite yet. Elton John came on to Pinball Wizard. He ended up with that Rocket Man conclusion, bringing Glastonbury to an end. And here is our look back at BBC Breakfast time at Glastonbury 2023.
Now the clear up start. Colin, you look like you have had a ball. Thank you so much for bringing us all that joy from Glastonbury.
We should have got him a bin bag, shouldn't we? He could help.
He's doing that later.
You're watching BBC Breakfast. Still to come on this morning's programme, you might remember how Max the dog won millions of fans during the COVID lockdowns with his walks through the Lake District.
Now, Max sadly died last year, but now his owner has recruited a new member to the pack, Tally, and Tally is gorgeous. More on that at 10 to 8, so do stay with us.
We'll have all the headlines for you at 7 o'clock in a couple of minutes. But now let's join our teams around the UK for the news, the travel and weather, where you are. See you in a moment. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Sally Nugent and John Kay. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Sally Nugent and John Kay.
Tally got a bit tired there, just needed a little bit of help at the end on that walk.
I know how he feels.
It's only little, yeah, me too.
I know how he feels.
Well done.
Yeah, well done you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thanks for your lovely messages about our new sofa and our new studio. We will welcome you back here as ever tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock.
Now on BBC One, it's time for Morning Live with Michelle and Gordon.
Morning both.